So a few months later, I'm feeling great. I was not allowed to be alone with my baby. So we came back to San Diego. We stayed with my mother. And so my husband at the time was going to little deployments, 1-day trips, things like that. And one time must have been like a Wednesday or a Thursday, and I realized that I had run out of medication. I was no longer on the antipsychotics. This was more of like a antidepressant, but I had to take it. So I told my mom, hey, I'm going to go to the ER because my therapist has said, Dee, if you ever run out of medication, you can go to the ER and get more, or you can just call me. But I didn't want to call her because it was during the week. It was around dinner time. I did not want to bother her. Well, that was the biggest mistake I could have ever done, is gone to the ER. I went to the ER. They sent me to the back. I began to tell these two interns, I could assume, what was going on. But I just gave them just a little bit of information, not a lot. But what I gave them was enough for them to lock me up. So they locked me up like a crazy person. In San Diego, we do not have IOPs, which are intensive outpatient programs or even inpatient programs for people who are experiencing maternal mental health disorders. So they locked me up, and that being locked up there regressed me tremendously. After that, I began to hurt myself. I began to scratch my forearms bloody. So I always been one that wears really funky clothes. I used to work in the fashion industry. So that people were never, kind of wondering, why is Dee wearing that funky stuff, right? Yeah. So it would be the summer, I would wear in a tank top, but I would be wearing these gloves that would go from my wrist to my elbow. But I wore them because my forearms were scratch bloody. Wow. Because that regressed me tremendously. So I know in the episode you did with the Berenice, somebody had comments like they took my baby away. Yeah. That is very real. But in my case, they took the mom away. So they processed me like if I was going to jail. I've never been in jail, but they process you where they take all your clothes away. And then I was allowed to do one phone call. So the phone call I did to my mom to tell her, hey, Mom, I'm not coming home because they're locking me up. And I was so scared, and they took me away from my baby. And all I can think is like, oh my gosh, my baby doesn't have me. And it was all due to the lack of awareness and education that the facility, the hospital, the nurses, the doctors had on maternal mental health.
Right.
Hoy Nomas podcast. Clips for full podcast link can be found on description below.